A numbers game. The Voyager Documentary, DS9, and San Diego ComicCon. Today on Trekland Tuesdays Live with me, yay, Dr. Trek. That's me, Larry Nemecek. Coming at you right here live as we do every week, Tuesday, from the heart of Trekland right through Portal 47, bringing you clarity, sanity, and the big picture in all things Star Trek, or at least we try. And wishing you another great week, a happy Tuesday. Hey, if you're one of our regulars, you know I'm going to be talking here about that topic for a little bit, and we will take a break. I'll come back. If you're watching us live, no worries. I'll be here for the whole time. On YouTube, you're going to catch only the first round of the topic. But hey, if you're a veteran, you know that, and you know to jump in the chat. If you're new with us, glad to see you across all the streams. If you're on Twitch, I'm not going to be talking Twitch chat. I'm going to catch everything up after the break. Okay, so I'm not insulting anyone. But I'm so glad to see everybody showing up and bopping in and saying hi. It's a real roundup on some news stories this week. But I like to bring you not the same old in Trekland. I always try to find the big picture to things, and I think this week the numbers game is a big picture. And part of the numbers game for everybody is me thanking these fine folks in our very small, modest Patreon. So I want to thank everybody here. We'll give them a shout out before we're done. Thanks everybody in the TTL Club and our live wires this week on Patreon. Thank you for helping me expand the multi-streaming end of Trekland just a little bit. But yeah, what's not in the title is we're even going to have a box opening here in the minute. But first, I got to say congratulations. And, we had, I've had, don't killer tape. I've had one guest on the Trek Files for a couple of the last couple weeks. And we had a great show Saturday on Life Support Live with a couple more. But folks, I'm going to use this old graphic for life support. But everybody involved with the Voyager documentary, David Zappone and Lolita and Joe Kornblatt and the whole team, Peter the DP. Congratulations to everybody with the documentary. I knew this was going to happen. You knew it was going to happen, but still you're amazed at how it just zings. They opened the first day yesterday after talking about numbers, the numbers game. Their basic goal was 150,000. They blew through that. They blew through the first 2-3 stretch goals. They're now on their 5th stretch goal. They're madly inventing. I think they had plans, but they're madly preparing how to fulfill these stretch goals. They've blown through their first 3, 150,000, then $225,000 donations on IndieGoGo, more 3D graphics animation, then filming the Voyager reunion in November at DST, assuming everything goes well and Destination Star Trek in London happens. Filming that since they were cheated out of anything past the cruise last year because of the COVID shutdowns. All the big actual 25th anniversaries celebrations didn't happen, which is, of course, what's built up part of the demand for helping this documentary out. Stretch goal 3 at 400,000 American US was going from 60 to 90 minutes. And now they're only, as I checked this, about 14,000 away from the 4th stretch goal at 500,000, which was composed an original score for the film. And we were kidding last night on some channel about maybe they would have had even more people donate if they'd had an HD effects remastering the way DS9 did. Of course, DS9 has all the great space battles. And I don't know, what would you do with Voyager? Would you recreate the caretaker wave in the beginning? Would you do the Year of Hell explosions? Would you do the timeless ice crash? Would you redo the salamander babies? What would you do with visual effects remastered? But anyway, that who knows? That might be down the line. I was kidding last night that they've already raised 47 stretch goals. Maybe they've got 39 days left to go, or 29 days left to go in the month. Anyway, so congratulations to them. They're technically at 324% of their original goal. 486, 747 as we're filming this. It went up just $300 from about 10 minutes ago when I first checked it. It's amazing. And, look what's going on. It's hard to, we're in between new Star Trek, so there's not any attention diversion. People are a lot of the DS9 fans who were thrilled with What Be Left Behind that David and Joe's team did, much less the earlier one, the Spock doc, but especially with What You Left Behind. People were so excited by that. And if they weren't paying attention through all the Shatner documentaries and For the Love of Spock and Chaos on the Bridge, What You Left Behind certainly got people's attention. And DS9er or not, people love that, and they know the street cred of Joe 455 Films' team. They know what they can do, and so that's helpful. And then Voyager, again, was robbed of all of its big 25th anniversary celebrating after the cruise, and the cruise barely squeaked by. I don't know about you, but I was praying every day, knowing the Star Trek cruise was out there that first weekend, like a year ago right now, they were out there with that other generic cruise already making headlines as a living COVID petri dish. And I was like, please, God, don't make the Star Trek cruise the butt of all the late night, monologue humor. Not that there was anything funny about scary COVID coming in, but it's Star Trek. So the late night comics can still, 20 years later, 30 years later, with some love, though, I will say, I'm going to be fair here. I'm not going to be reverse stereotypical here. It ain't the 80s and 90s. And yeah, they're very well the Geeks one. The Geeks are hosting all the late night shows. But I was thinking, please, God, don't let a COVID outbreak break out on that ship. And yeah, from all the firsthand accounts, some of them were starting to get really worried too, but everything got back. But there was a normal amount of cruise con crud, but hopefully no real COVID that we know of. But all that to say that Voyager was really robbed at ComicCon, at Vegas, at the European conventions, at the DSTs in Europe last year. So there's a little bit of holdover for that. All that pent-up demand is, boom, yes, echoing here. And so to the point that the Voyager documentary team was able to stand on the shoulders of not just their own work, but especially the fan reaction to the Niner crowd and what that did. And I think anybody that went to see What You Left Behind enjoyed it. I think people have no idea about Star Trek. Enjoyed it. It was so well made. You were pulled in, whether you'd ever seen Caretaker or What We Leave Behind or not, or even Trials and Tribulations, or Pale Moonlight, or go down the list, right? If you I think even people who had never seen a frame of DS9 got the Alan Moraine worst scene little joke at the end. Ooh, spoilers. So all that bode well for Dave and Joe and Lolita, who's assisting with the talent and co-producing. I'm just tickled pink, thrilled to that. And we've been supporting across the Trekland banner. And I'm going to be, if you look down there, if you can afford to be it, I'm going to wear my Trekland Treks hat when we're finally able to do this and go in and help lead a couple of half a days on those away mission stretch goals. It'll be great to, it's great publicity. A lot of people have no idea that Star Trek location tours exist. We'll find out this way. So it's a win-win for everybody. It's my way of helping out here right now. So anyway, and there's a lot of those slots left. If you can be a high roller donor, or mid-level high roller donor, there's a lot of those slots left too. So anyway, but there's plenty of slots. They're madly coming up with more stuff to give perk rewards. So yay to the Voyager documentary. Yay to that team. I told him it was a perfect time to be doing this. And maybe heaven forbid to say this, but maybe in the silver lining of the whole COVID shutdown slowdown was that this is happening now and not last summer. And at the very least fighting for attention as the new Trek, as Lower Decks and as Discovery Season 3 were rolling out, which of course they in turn would have been earlier in the year had it not been for COVID, but who knows? Anyway, it is what it happens. And wow, is it really happening for the Voyager doc? So good on them. So yeah, I'm combining topics today under that heading of the numbers game. So here's the numbers game that actually I had to put off for a minute and a half because of events the last couple of weeks. But I got this box from Penguin Random House. That was helpful. That I wanted to save for an unboxing here on Trekland Tuesdays Live in case I re-edit this. So yeah, let's just, I'm literally like opening right now. And I know we had that huge slew of books before Christmas. So what could this be? I don't know. People are attentions waver these days. We're not quite so focused on things, but still, I mean, literally, guys, I'm really doing this. An awesome, awesome book. Now, this is in a series. Some of you may have had the rest, but because we've been talking about Voyager here, and I'm seeing that the Voyager edition is out already, but now it's time for the Hero Collector, our friends at Eagle Moss's edition of the DS9 collectible. And I'm sure that stuff I did 20 years ago is in here in the text, because if nothing else, Hero Collector, as the latest iteration and updating of the original fact files, is an amazing set of I think of it as the text, but it's the work, it's the artwork. So I'm doing a lousy job of doing this on camera. Yay, there goes Mrs. Now, hang on. I'm going to have a couple of giveaways associated with this. This is my copy, my review copy. So I'm going to review it right now. If you're familiar with oh, there we go. If you're familiar with the series, thank you guys for having ad copy. There you go. Bang. Eagle Moss / Starships Collection / Hero Collector has a lot of franchises. But Star Trek, if you wonder how they're able to do all this, do this artwork, a lot of this artwork, and a lot of you all in the States know this. Well, you're thinking that's all from the old thick magazine, the old Star Trek magazine. No, it was done for the fact files, which you never saw, but the Europeans did. And a lot of people, when they think fact files, they think of, oh my God, the weekly mailers and those binders that you expand, and they were huge and bulky. And every once in a while, there'd be a boner of a fact creep in, or something would get updated, and you'd have the stickers you put on to update things. Well, that's true. That's where it all started. And some of this great isometric exploded 3D artwork. This is all about DS9 and the runabouts, and of course the Defiant. There's a lot of photography here, a lot of photography that I sourced, a lot of art reference that I sourced. Wow. Yes, and then the Defiant sets that came up, and weapons and uniforms. It's all here. It's just awkward to show you guys. But here, let me do a contents. How about that? And if you're familiar with the series, you know the score. There, I mean, blam, right? I mean, you could that was a short glance, I know. So much good stuff, and it's all from references. And if you want to, I couldn't control what happened down chain, but for 6 years, fact files, we had a house because of fact files, until the insanity hit in 08, 09. But they paid for people to do the work, writing and sourcing. And when the good thing about DS9 was it was ongoing. We said 3 years of DS9 while we were working on fact files, so we could actually go grab reference from people, set dressing and set photography. And if you wonder how in the world these insane 3D blowout, 3D, anything. This is the wardroom, which came along later when they realized DS9 needed its own version of an observation lounge, which wasn't, the table around, there you go, residential quarters. I mean, these are 3D optical blowouts of isometrics of when we had dressed rooms and set plans. It's a combination of all that reference that we were able to get them. And so much of the attention in hindsight has been put into the graphics and the charts and the blueprints and all of that, and some of the CG artwork that's been done since back in the day when this was rare, right? Everything had to be hand drawn. And when we started getting the CG editions and we're able to harness that, there's a whole, that's worth a whole documentary, a whole news article series. Someone ought to get on that. No, the Fact Files story and how it morphed into the American magazine, the Architectural Digest version of the magazine that I did, which was the official magazine of the fan club, which at first was hard to juggle because no one consulted in licensing about how to split these up, because the magazine was the promised American venue for fact files that went away when Pocket wound up not partnering with them to make a book. Oh, there's so much history here, guys. So much history here. And no one told my good friend that you hear on the Trek Files this week, Dan Madsen, about it. And he was pretty upset at first. And moi figured out that the target audience of the American magazine was repurposing all the Fact Files content with a lot of original news being put together by the writer-editor, Tricia Palmer. And in my heart of hearts, I said, well, they're the fan club magazine who's still doing, it's not a cheesy little kids newsletter anymore. We're newsstand worthy too. We're just a lower price point, but our emphasis is going to be on the fanishness, even though we're delivering facts and hardcore. My thing was always, I don't want to hear 9 people talk about it. I want to hear the horse's mouth talk about it. That was and that was the magazine too. But where it was, half of the magazine was pulling out of Fact Files background material and a lot of new stuff that I was envious of Trish for just coming in and making these like army of, she had 8 topics and she would come do them and get out of town and then come over again from the UK and interview those folks. And my world was a lot more scattered and piecemealed in dealing with the current shows. They got a lot of things preserved on paper and paid for it, just like they'd paid for everything I was doing. So they put their money where their mouth was. It's continuing to pay off all these years later. And meanwhile, back in the day, the one thing you'd say about the American magazine version of Star Trek Monthly was that it was very impersonal. And for a lot of people, nobody cared. So I tried to make, and it was faceless. There were no names, no faces attached. There was a little masthead at the front, which included me because of sourcing on the front end, but it was very impersonal. And so I just made Communicator as personal as we could. You knew not only the bylines, but you knew who was behind those faces and names. Again, guys, this is pre 2005. So it's all pre-digital. Anyway, we just personalized, personalitied up the Communicator as well as much, actual fact and illustration as we could get. Anyway, there was an unintended trip down memory lane. Hey, this is out on Amazon, the hardcover. It's the prime price right now is $26.76, but it's 200 pages. It's all those glossy fact filesy original magazine type things, and the kind of thing you see in the Starships magazine in smaller form per ship each time. This is taking a lot broader view. It's just the latest again in a lot of their hardcore bits. They did the Voyager book that we did an opening for right before Christmas. But here, hang on, not today, but keep watching. Next week I will announce when it can be its own thing. We'll have a giveaway of some kind somewhere in Trekland. Okay, probably attached either to our show here live or to some kind of a send-in. I haven't figured it out yet, but that's the DS9 book, and it's been sitting here for a couple weeks. It's been out. It came out officially February 9th, so you can jump over and grab that. If I was a good businessman, I would have my own little link where I got 2 pennies out of your order, but I don't have that set up. I'm just going to tell you now about it. Go out and get that. The series is going to continue. But, we're talking about the numbers game here. And one of the biggest numbers games of DS9 and Voyager both is, when are we going to get HD product? When are we going to get the remastering that TOS and TNG, different but the same kind of remastering, got? And a lot of it has to do with visual effects, past all the basics, right? So yeah, these documentaries signal interest. The books that are coming out, when they're really well done and high end, they signal interest. And I know so many fans are going, I bought the books, I bought the DVDs, I went to see the doc. Some of this is just the spread, because both of those series, and much less Poor Enterprise, is coming from a deficit. They just did not have the unified audience, the empty field. Anybody can score a 100-yard touchdown if there's nobody else on the field. When the defense gets crowded, that's when it gets harder. And that's what all these series are doing. And at the same time, the tech is coming down. The cost is coming down. So, just like so many other things that are pushing the curve, like, going to Mars, the cost factor is just weighing into all these things. But someday, whatever the new way is, whatever, for all the people that didn't throw away their original film clip frames because they all went to red in the 90s, and some of us hung on to ours, and little did we know that 20 years later, Photoshop, one click, you can get 90% of the color back in one click after you scan it. Who knew in 1990? But some of us couldn't throw our stuff away. And we kept all those great film clips that the guys put out in the book a couple of years ago that you see popping up now and that are populating all the memes now. So hang in there, everybody. Hang in there. It is a numbers game. It is a numbers game, and eventually the numbers will be in alignment. And meanwhile, we're doing nothing but spreading the word about DS9 and Voyager, and eventually even Enterprise. If you saw the kickoff video for the Voyager documentary with Connor Turnier, it was really funny and right on the nose too. I tweeted about this. That's the other thing about the Voyager doc. Casts and creatives from the other shows are all jumping in to help because they've seen what the Dave and 455 have done. David Zappone and everybody have done with these. So it's all good. It's all good. The French guys, and yes, eventually by hook or by crook, somehow, some way, I bet there'll be an Enterprise documentary too. They're better because there's been a lot not said about Enterprise, and someday if we ever are able to make a companion book come to fruition, that would be good. But lastly, I had 3 topics up this week, and the last one is also a numbers game. It was news breaking because of the fact that it was only 3 or 4 weeks ago that ComicCon International, which is San Diego Comic-Con, and a couple of other events, chief of which is its baby convention, WonderCon, which is either started in San Francisco for years, but then moved to the LA, Anaheim, currently now in Anaheim. It's a junior version of San Diego Comic-Con, just as intense and serious. Excuse me. Sorry about that. It's only been 3 or 4 weeks ago. That's in late March that they announced. We knew it would be late virtual. Everyone knew it would be virtual. The panel invitations went out saying, or submissions said, this will probably be virtual, but they waited to announce it for sure. Well, the July dates for Comic-Con in San Diego, Big Daddy Comic-Con San Diego, they've already decided. It didn't take much long. They're going virtual again, although pulling back to just, is it 3 days? Yes, 3 days, not 5. That would mock the original full blown. They're going to roll out virtual panels and have submissions, but instead of having 5 days of virtual panels, pull back to 3. They're taking a financial hit, just like everyone else is. They're trying to find in their business model ways to make the commercial conventions are having, photo ops and times of actors, and they're taking a cut of that. They're at least getting by, but they have employees. Comic-Con's a nonprofit, but they've still got bills to. Just because something is nonprofit does not mean it's free. You have professionals, if it's big enough, professionals running nonprofits of any stripe. And you got to pay them. So a nonprofit does not mean we don't make profit. It means we don't make profit for stockholders or the owners. We make enough seed money put back, and we stay healthy that way. Meanwhile, we have professional people who deserve to make a paycheck, and that's harming them. Now they've announced an in-person event for November, doing what others are doing and hoping that the wave has crested by then and people are feeling safe enough to get out. But they've knocked off another live Big Daddy Comic-Con until 2022. The cruise months ago canceled, and with that springtime window, the Star Trek cruise just went ahead and delayed until March of 2022. So depending on timing in the year, it was easy to do that. Some it was dicier. And yeah, Comic-Con San Diego is it 2 or 3 weeks before STLV? And we had a debate last night. To me, Star Trek Las Vegas is Star Trek Las Vegas. We were calling it STLV before they had the official, a year or two before they had, as hashtags became a thing in the late aughts. And it wasn't a hardcore license, the only one in licensed by CBS until the early teens, 2013, 2014. And it's shorter than Trek Vegas, which is what I called it from day one. Back 2001, 2002, it was Trek Vegas, before we needed hashtags. It was just shorter to type. I'm sorry. Anyway, whatever you're calling it, it's only 3 weeks after this. And yeah, different states and different locales. But the numbers game with Comic-Con and with all the cons is COVID-19 does not mean 19 COVID strains. COVID-19 means it was discovered in 2019. But we're having variants out the wazoo, which sounds painful. We're up to like 2, the UK variant, the South African variant, the Brazilian variant. Too many variants, even if it's a little number. And please, God, keep it to single digits. Okay, we don't need... Numbers games can be very tiny numbers. They can be decimals and fractions of a number. But we've got so many variants, And look, the last 2 or 3 or 4 days here in the States, the CDC's graph, that plunge it was taking has plateaued out. And it's striking to me, here again, that on one day we have ComicCon July, which is, 200,000 people from when you take in fans and vendors and marketing and support staff and all of that. When you got in one town, in one city, in one piece of a city, it's far more intensive than something, say, like the Super Bowl, for a longer period of time. When you've got Comic-Con announcing a July postponement you're trying to have a 1 or 2 day live event in November, virtual in July for 3 days only, not 5, 2 days live in November, and then nothing real, nothing like the real one until next year. And then the next day you have the governor of Texas saying, oh, we're reopening. It's when you've still got people not on the same page and you've got, left hand, right hand fighting each other, much less not knowing what they're doing, then that even adds to the insanity of trying to get past this, trying to get the vaccine rate up enough. And that's one good thing. The vaccines are coming out, right? You're all following the news. But these variants are the big question mark looming over everything, and how fast, how well we'll combat them. Middle of early January, I was hoping that maybe we would get shots to everybody by the end of July, and maybe right on the cusp, if it was only the stragglers getting July shots, and most people had their shots well before that, by May and June and all that maybe Vegas will happen, maybe Comic-Con would even happen. But knowing that it was on the cusp, because here's the thing, they've let until guidance changes, this mode that we're in for this round of the pandemic this century is that people are doing whatever the hell they want to do, and governments are doing whatever the hell they want to do, whether it's smart or not. And with the botched messaging we had in the States to begin with, and botched leadership on this, leaving it all up to we're all going to just decide, like we're going to decide what color shirt to wear today. We're all going to decide what we're going to do about a pandemic. That's what's been the, and if we stumble into having a declining curve was one thing, but when these variants started poking up, and still the attitude of people do whatever the hell they want to do if it ever changed, it's thrown everything of late summer, fall into confusion now. So it's a numbers game. It's a numbers game. And now we're in the numbers of how many variants, and what are going to be the numbers of the existing vaccines working on that? Will a third booster be needed? Will it have to be tailor-made? How many more companies will be in the game? And what about the rest of the world? Poor Africa, I'm reading, is not only behind the curve, but having to fight with everybody else. And there are vaccines coming that are designed especially for low and middle income nations, but they're still a month or two away. All that to say is about the time people were hoping this would all settle into a clear picture, it's not. It's not. And this is just and good on, as sad as it is, good on San Diego Comic-Con for realizing that. Maybe we in our little pods and clusters and people we know and down the block, that's one thing. But having 200,000 people or even 20,000 people coming into one big place, whatever, even with masks, because some people are not going to do it. And it's not even just the being there, it's the travel. And when you've got an international event, yes, everybody across the ponds are reminding me, I'm sure, even across global events like Comic-Con and STLV, you've got individual governments and individual situations and enforcing, 2-week lockdowns coming and going, which complicates things, which knocks those people out of even wanting to go if they could or felt like it. It's just a complex picture that these variants, even 2 or 3 or 4 of them, and hopefully we don't see any more, even 2 or 3 or 4 are throwing things into chaos now. All the expectations we had for later in the year. Will November, the holidays, that's what our new president was saying. Hopefully we can be back to normal by the holidays, which is late year. We'll see. But there's a hell of a lot of difference between December and July, August. Will it be enough? I hope so. Will that be all it is? I hope so. Here we are back in the question marks again. But one thing that's not a question mark is that we have enough to keep us busy. And when it comes to, the things we want, hopefully if we get some support from our governments to get ourselves through these extreme sacrifices that were asked to be made, on the part of common sense based on science, that there's not that internal pressure, because so many people are hurting and so many people deserve to be lifted through no fault of their own this pandemic. When the system is, all the gears are working and we can all be safe together and not have to sacrifice to be safe together, when people all get the message and the script is working, and not just, city to city or county to county or state to state, but country to country, that's the way it ought to work. Be smarter than a virus was one of my new hashtags last year. But look, we've survived this far, right? We've made it this far. Wear a damn mask. This is not going anywhere yet until we have some more data in. Spock and Data would all be proud that we're relying on the data. And I hope you're enough of a Star Trek fan to get that. I mean, of course, there's policy and style quibbles all along the way here. But the people are going great guns right now. And hopefully the distribution of things will not prove to be a boondoggle, and some of the supply chain kinks are getting sorted out on that. And I know there's different situations in every country. There's different situations in every state here, but hopefully we can wear the damn mask and get the damn shot and get both of the damn shots. And let's get back to damn, not old normal, but hopefully learning a lot of lessons from this, just as we did with the Spanish flu pandemic in 1918, 1919, and get back to some common sense things that we can all deal with. Meanwhile, we do have a silver lining sanity blanket here for things like, yay, Voyager Documentary. I feel like, 747 was the last total. I feel like refreshing before I get off of this and see. Yeah, it's gone up almost $3,000 just since we started. It's at 489, so they're only 11 short of that last stated stretch goal. And will they come up with more? We'll see. Hey everybody, I want to thank you so much for joining us for another Tuesday. I am going to dive in the chat. Don't worry, we're going to have our conversation there. But first, I'm gonna lock it down here for everybody that's watching us just on YouTube, and just remind everybody now and then, I want to thank all of our Patreons for making this possible. Hey, Blaze K and Robin Wilson, Lawrence Todd, Anna Marie Siegel, Blake Arledge, Justin Portrius. Sorry, I went to Bermuda there for a second, as they used to say. Hey, Nathaniel Robinson, thank you guys for being in the TTL Club and our live wires. Yep, that's Rusty Harold, Jared Cooper, Hal Bjorn, Gud Johnson, Eli Irvin, Jalen Bullock, Gary Williamson. Oh, look, I still haven't made a new one. Robert McLean, Dan Leckie, and yes, a special shout out to Casey Shafsky. Thanks for going a little above and beyond there, man. What is that? What are we doing here? That's Patreon. It's how you can support creatives. It's the old 3 or 4 or 5 year old system, patreon.com. I am /Trekland Live. I have a very simple $5 and $10 one. It's not elaborate. We have other projects. So this is just easy to do. Come in and get a shout out, or come in and get a shout out and access to some of the first generation, earlier Portal 47 interviews that we're also getting standardized now, which is this is helping out with. So thanks a lot, guys, on all of that. We had an awesome life support live last week, as I mentioned, which is up. You can go watch it again. We had Dave Zappone and Lily DeFaggio talking about the Voyager doc and all the documentaries that Dave had done before, and documenting in general, after a watch along of Living Witness that we did. You can skip that and go right to the halfway point. But that was a special show. Every week we're going boldly through uncertain times. Dr. Trek and Dr. Ali. One of us is a real doctor. We have a lot of fun. We have a great community. The lifers there. A lot of you guys are with us on Saturday, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. UK time, 7 p.m. Central Europe. We timed it so that we can get to the most folks and actually maybe do the most help, even if help is just cheering up a little bit that time. And this week, meanwhile, over on the Trek Files, up today, my old boss and also good buddy Dan Madsen. up in Colorado was our guest this week, talking about all things merchandise and licensing, and a 1975 memo Gene wrote about the weird connection, speak of the devil here, between especially, well, fans of any stripe, but especially sci-fi genre fandom and stuff, merchandise, collectibles, mementos, and the emotional link that provides. And when fandom becomes a cult, and when it's just a healthy passion. And it was an interesting letter, and Dan and I got off on some of those aspects. It's up now, the Trek Files, over on facebook.com/the Trek Files, with, of course, as always, Gene's letter this week that got the thing started. We're there, and the new one is up today, as it is every Tuesday. And I'm going to do one more shout out. I know there's a lot of attention, claiming folks extra coinage. But we did, this is up and going, and it'll be there for a while longer. A GoFundMe for Michael Braveheart's very modest $3,000 goal. This is very old. It's gotten up to several hundred now, but he's still less than a third of the way there. I know folks just gave to the IndieGoGo, but even $5 or $10 here would be wonderful if you had that to spare. He's got some heart issues. He was bucking along in New York City, and the pandemic kind of messed up things, the health issues on top of not being able to work. So anyway, it's a very modest goal. Michael Braveheart, of course, was Ensign Martinez, Dr. Crusher's nurse, that you may remember silently standing there in assistance. One of the great faces of Star Trek that was around for years, never got a line. They all went to Ogawa later on. Anyway, I just want a reminder to that. That's it. GoFundMe, Friends of Michael Braveheart, just the way it sounds, okay? Otherwise, yeah. You can also catch me if you're on YouTube with me now. That's our Twitter handle, just Larry Nemecek. And it's Larry Nemecek's Trekland on Instagram, as it is on Facebook. And portal47.net, if you want to help us out and join in at the same time, be part of the Portales world. And I mean, last week we had Tom Morga, who is just an iconic stuntman and was behind so many things. And I learned a ton. I did not know. And I went back to see that, yes, it was in Memory Alpha later on. But if you don't know to go look, sometimes you don't know. Tom Morga was actually in the suit, was the little waving spaceman at the dry dock departure in motion picture that was reused in Rathacon. I mean, come on. And that was just the tip of the iceberg with Tom. I love those moments, and I love our roundtables, and I love sharing stuff from the archives. But that's Portal 47. This is Trekland, and I am so glad that you guys could be with us. So yes, I'm going to take a break here just a second. Hey, YouTubers, if you're about to leave us, it'd be great to join us live on Tuesdays, right? Right here at 1 o'clock Pacific Tuesday, 4 p.m. Eastern, yada, yada. 9 UK British time, and 10 o'clock Central Europe. It's easy to get to, okay? Otherwise, I will be right back for everybody else. And as always, guys, please, please, please stay healthy. Be smart. Please, please, please stay woke. Check your sources. I was watching a thread last night where people were arguing with some guy. I went over and clicked. He was obviously fake, had no photos that matched. All of his friends were also fake personas. This stuff doesn't go away. So please check your sources when you're online and stay woke. And above all, just trek well, everybody.